Welcome to the Chronically Wool podcast, where we have real conversations with community that needs to be heard. On today's episode, I get to take a journey and have a conversation that has been some time in the making. I've been wanting to sit down and have a conversation with my sister Leah because not only do we both live with similarities as far as our physical chronic health condition, but in my household, we live with chronic health conditions that are physical and mental. And I know that Leah is a strong, avid advocate for not only herself, but for others in this space. I just truly enjoy your spirit. I enjoy you coming through in the group chat regularly and just keeping the momentum going because, truly, Leah, I don't know if anyone's ever told you in any other space, but you are someone that truly deserves their space, their time. You truly deserve the platform to speak your truths. So again, Leah, my sister, thank you for joining me on this journey. Could you please give our audience a summary of who you are?
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm honored to be here. I'm so happy here. My name is Leah Content. I'm 24 years old. I have type 1 diabetes, among a few other medical complications and health issues. So I'm really interested in the medical aspect and how it intersects with the legal field. I currently have my bachelor's degree in criminology and criminal justice. I'm going to get my master's in criminal justice, and then I'm going to go to law school. Growing up, I would see, after being freshly diagnosed, I would look around me, and I guess at the time I didn't really understand, how that I had, and you get to an adult, and then you start seeing the prices for medications, and you're just like, okay, something's not right here. And so, as an adult, I was the person who's advocate about diabetes, and just getting rid of some of the stigma and the miscommunications. Because as a people, you don't realize how hard you're doing heavy lifting with all the weight and all the burdens that you're carrying with diabetes until you try and share with it with people, and they're just like, oh, I didn't even know what was happening. So I'm really excited to tell about my story that started when I was really young, at birth, you could say, with you guys today. And I'm just excited to talk. And, I thank you, Will, for giving me the platform to speak. I have a problem sometimes, not knowing if I should say something or if I shouldn't. That's the ADHD knocks into me. So today I'm really excited to have this natural conversation, and it doesn't feel like any pressure. It feels like I can be heard. I can share my story and use my voice. So thank you again, Will.
You're welcome. As far as that ADHD, I renamed it. I call it adult deficit hyperactive disorder because there's so many of us adults. Even if
That's so true.
Yeah, so many people, we can have conversations when you're like, yeah, that's my twin. But yes, thank you for joining me.
It's so funny. I didn't find out that I had ADHD till I was 21, and then I found out I had autism 2 years later when I was 23. So I was like, okay, this is the whole time I've just been basking, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. So it's crazy, as you become an adult, things become more apparent. My mom, she's a special needs teacher, so she works with children who have autism and ADHD. And so it's kind of Mom, you could have told me earlier. She's like, yeah, but at the time I had a lot of health complications. She didn't want to add to that burden I have. So it's I understand why she did it, but it's it would have been helpful if I knew earlier. Because as a child, it's okay, you have all these struggles. You're oh, am I stupid? What's wrong with me? And then you get older, that times for it's oh, I'm not dumb. I just had, this complication. And now you forget for your accommodations that you need.
We haven't even spoken about type 1 diabetes yet, but you mentioned 2 other health conditions. Could you repeat them?
I have ADHD, autism. Those are bunch of mental health conditions. I have diagnosed with major depressive disorder. That's one of them. And I have RSD as a complication of ADHD. So those are the mental side. When I was born with a damaged pituitary gland, and that caused me to have some adrenal insufficiency and hormone issues as well, and hypothyroidism.
So you had a hypothyroidism before your type 1 diabetes diagnosis?
Yes.
I've had many conversations with people who do have hypothyroidism. I have hypothyroidism. It's not Hashimoto's, but I do have hypothyroidism, and many people don't realize it until after they get one autoimmune diagnosis because when you get one, the medical team should screen you for others because they come in pairs, sometimes trios, sometimes you get a whole starting five. I think I got a starting
Yeah.
five of diagnoses by now. But yeah, so
You know what's funny? When I was
tell
younger, I lived in Pennsylvania up north. I lived up north, and a lot of the doctors, like, they were trying to figure out like what was wrong with me, and they couldn't understand because I was getting sick a lot. Like I was had pneumonia and bronchitis, but it wasn't until like I got to Florida that I started getting diagnosed with like hepatitis. And, they're figuring out what was my autoimmune issues. So it's like for a good portion of my life, like I was just very sickly, but like the doctors were very confused as like what was going wrong and how to fix it. So it's like, you know, for that short period of time, it's like you're like, okay, what's happening? What is going on with your body? And it's a very confusing state to not know what's going on with your own body.
did you feel early on as though you were being poked and prodded a lot, or was it like normal to you?
At first it was kind of weird, and then after I started getting used to it, I'm like, okay, this is it became like a norm to me, but like not comfortable normal. It's like, okay, I get this is gonna keep happening to me, but it's like something should be fixed. You know what I mean? Like I remember going to doctor's offices and then being confused as what was wrong with me, and I'm just like, so nothing's wrong with me. It's like, and I've been to a lot of doctors when I was younger, and like none of them could really understand like what was going on with me. And I don't know if maybe at the time it was the wrong doctors, or like, because like I was a child, I didn't really know about like, advocating for yourself and going to doctors. It was mostly like my parents were helping me, and they were also trying to figure out what was going wrong. So when I found the right doctor who was able to explain to me, it's like a breath of fresh air. I mean, just like what is wrong, but you can't figure it. As a child, you can't really do much. Well, I mean, you can try, but it's like you don't have the right resources to.
So I did want to again and ask because you said like you were diagnosed with ADHD, um, ASD, and hypothyroidism. You said and another hormonal deficiency. What was it? Was it like Addison's or
Yes, it was Addison's. I had
because when
I
you was
had a
talking about it, I was like, is that Addison's?
yeah, it was Addison's. I had a hard time like when I was younger. I was very small and like very thin. And so like even then I didn't look my age. Like I would be like 10, 9, 11 people thinking like I was 6 or 5. And like to this day I still get it. It's like I don't really look my age. Like I'm 24 and people still think I'm 15. So it's like even though I've gotten better over time, the aging process is like never eased up. It's like and people joke like, oh, you're gonna enjoy it when you get older, it's gonna be good for you. And I'm just like, now though, when you're an adult and you're trying to take it seriously, it's not really helpful.
Growing up as a child, like adults don't take you serious, and now you're an adult and they don't take you serious. Like you were thinking when you're a child, I can't wait till I get older and become an adult and be taken serious. And now it's like, oh, they still trying to play me like I'm a little kid, but I'm not. Like we're all adults in here. Oh, I was asking that because you did mention having a sibling. I don't know how many siblings you have.
I have 14 siblings.
14
Yeah.
siblings. Um,
Half of them are biological, half of them are foster. So like my
okay.
family have a big heart. Like growing up, I grew up with a lot of foster siblings. So I consider them my actual siblings. But whenever I tell people that, their face is like always shocked.
Family's family.
Yeah.
Now, with your biological siblings, do any of them have any autoimmune or chronic health conditions?
My sisters, they have asthma and because I also have asthma, and they have one of my sisters has ADHD, but the rest of them are pretty healthy. I'm like the only one who like, really got stuck with the majority of health
Okay.
issues, which I'm kind of happy that they don't have to go through the same situation as I do. But at the same time, it'd be nice if you had someone who understood what you're going through as well. I have cousins who are like in similar situations to me, but it's like growing up having a sibling who also understands what you're going through, it's nice.
Yes, it is. Because, like even with your parents, if they were to see how you were to respond to certain things in school and in education, even with peers, and then they see like how your siblings respond to it, they're like, okay, we know there's something indifferent going on. I don't know if it's with the sibling or if it's with Leah, but we can figure that out. But as far as like with with your physical health. And even then, they didn't correspond it with your mental health because we know, like, if you're dealing with a physical ailment, 10 out of 10 times, there's something that's mentally or emotionally, psychologically, that's going to be affected as well. And that's a conversation that truly gets blanketed over so many times. And that's why, like, I knew that having a conversation with you, we'd be able to tap into the gist of it all. Because I know, Leah, you're ready to tell your story and be unapologetically you.
Yeah. I think from like birth, from a child, like I was known as the girl who talked too much. I think that probably should have been early signs. I'm like, hey, maybe this is ADHD. Maybe this is a sign, because like all I would get from my teachers was, oh, she's lovely, great kid, very smart. She talks a bit too much, you know? And like I was always fascinated with like random facts as a child. So like I'm the type of person who's like, oh, do you know such and such? Like random fact. And people just started like, okay. And so I never really understood like why they didn't care as much because I also like struggled with nonverbal cues. And like I was very social. And being a social autistic kid who doesn't really understand nonverbal cues, I'm trying to get into trouble sometimes, when we're trying to make friends, but you don't really know like the right way to go about it. And also the fact that like I was very sickly. And so I didn't really have many opportunities to like go out as much. So like school was like my main area of making friends and like trying to, get out of my comfort zone. Fast forward later on in college, I'm just like, okay, I'm just legit focused on one thing, So I've changed from like being an extrovert. I was very extroverted when I was in marriage. Now I'm a bit more introverted. I don't talk as much because it's like when you grow up being like told like, oh, maybe you shouldn't talk so much, maybe you should reserve yourself. Later on, it reflects in the way how you present yourself to people. Like even nowadays, and people who like really, really know me, like, yeah, he's a bit of a yapper. But like, if you didn't know me, you probably like, oh, she seems like a quiet person, sticks to herself. And like my extroverted personality rarely comes out, but like when I find my people, I'm happy, which is why I was so happy. Like when I got in the booth cut, it was just like, oh, everyone here is like we're all similar. Like we all, and I'm like, oh, there's more than one of us. So I was really happy when, I got invited to that group chat and I got to meet you guys for the first time. And it's been doing like wonders for my mental health, really. Because like I don't feel as alone anymore. Versus like when I was a kid, and it's like, okay, I don't really have as many people I can talk to about this. And I don't really even know how to verbalize my feelings, Like when something's not right and you just don't know what about it's not right. That was like how I felt for a long time when I was a child. So now where I'm getting a bit better at verbalizing my feelings and confronting them, which a lot of the time I've learned from like talks and group chat and stuff like that. So it's been like really helpful for me as well.
Thank you. I appreciate what you just said because me starting that group was because it was almost like looking at the man in the mirror. And I said, there's no one who looks like you who are
Mhm.
going through these things that you are going through. And once I found one person, I was like, this feels good. I said, I know this will feel equally good to another person. So I'm like, let me just keep on adding and finding. And then I saw how like it became like a great abundance of joy. Right, right.
Yes.
It was like we're sitting down, had feasting off this delicacy, this big meal, but we didn't even have food in front of us.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a holiday every day.
it is. Honestly, since I've started like I've been like more motivated to post my steps goals. That's just one of the things like I've been like really into now, like working out and getting my steps in. And so like every time like I see people like so I'm like, yes, I'm gonna double tomorrow. Fun fact, for my birthday, I was like, I'm gonna get the most steps I've ever done. I got 20,000 steps. I was like, yes. I felt like I was like, I did it. I was happy. I was like, I can continue on and keep going motivated. But like, there's times like you don't feel as motivated, but then you remember, I'm like, okay, I have other people around me helping me to stay accountable and to stay focused so I don't like get off track. So that's been very helpful.
Right. And I remember you were like coming off of like a sickness and everything. And I saw you,
Yeah,
yep. I said, she's gonna pop right back up. I already know because she's motivated. Like she got this beast started and there's no taming it now. But when you mentioned that you were like talkative and everything growing, I wouldn't have never guessed that. I would think that you were quiet, shy. But now, after sitting down and having this conversation with you, I see why you state that others may think that of you because you don't want to project as a certain way because you don't
Yeah,
like some things you are not in full control of.
yeah.
Understand.
I think when you have like an aggressive personality, like, a loud personality, you have to tone it down sometimes because you don't know which people you can trust it with. And so, like, as I've gone on, I'm like, okay, I know I'm like this, but I have to be careful who I'm surrounded by. That way I don't feel like, people are betraying who I am and they're forcing me to change who I am. So it's like, you cultivate who you are, you mask, because a lot of autistic and ADHD people know you mask, so who you are in front of other people. And then when you find people that you can be safe with, you let some of yourself out. It's more free. I will say though, but a good point of time where I was like masking it every day and I didn't even know I was that burnt out alongside diabetes. I'm like, okay, something's not right. I gotta change. And I think like at 16, the burnout really started kicking in because it's like I just got diagnosed with diabetes. I was just like, where did this come from? And how I got diagnosed with diabetes is even like crazier story, which if I can, I'll explain.
Let's tell
So,
this story.
so okay. So I had mentioned before, I had growth hormone issues and I had adrenal insufficiency. And so I was taking like hormone medication for that. However, my doctor at the time did not warn us that the growth hormone medication would give me diabetes as a complication. And so I ended up in the hospital with a bunch of like 600 and I was like really high. And so after that, they diagnosed me with diabetes. And I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, had I not taken that medication, maybe I'd be on a different path, you know? Like when you get so concerned with like the what ifs and how nots, it starts to bog you down. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going. But I went through like a really dark period at the time because it's like I had other people in my family had been diagnosed with diabetes, but they were like much older, right? And so it was like type 2 diabetes. At the time, I was like, how am I going to deal with this? I'm 16, I have diabetes. It's not exactly like a full disease, just like, and at the time, it's like the period where kids are really mean. Kids are brutal. They'll make jokes about anything. So it's like, oh, I keep this on the down low. I don't want any pity or anything like that. And so it's like I walked around like not really caring about my diabetes. You're not really caring what happened. I just acting like I was normal, which I think did damage me a lot. It did set me back some. But I think when I hit like 18, 17, that's when I started realizing, okay, I need to fix this and take care of myself if I want to stay alive and be healthy. Because it was getting to the point where I was getting really sick. I was in and out of hospitals like every other month or so. And I was like, okay, something needs to change. And it's like, I acknowledge I'm going to have bad days, and that's okay. But every day can't be a bad day. You know what I mean? And so that was really hard for me to acknowledge going from a 6-year-old who was really stubborn, who didn't want to do it. I had already had enough diseases in my body. Like, I can't have another one. I was already very sickly and I was just like, why? I felt like every time I went to the doctor's office, I get a diagnosis something different. And I was just like, I am sick of this. I can't do it anymore.
Hmm.
And so going from that to now being like, okay, I need to take it seriously. I need to, watch over myself. I need to be, and also I think a part of me was like not realizing the burden I was putting on my parents as well. Cause it's like they were also trying to help me, but I wasn't letting anyone in. Part of me was ashamed, but it's like, what am I really ashamed about? It's not really my fault that I ended up in this position, to be honest with you. And it's like, I can only hold myself accountable for so much, such as my actions. And like blaming yourself for things that you have no control of, that's not going to get you anywhere. That's how you go down a deep, dark spiral and how, your mental health starts to deteriorate. So I think starting from that step, from being diagnosed and recognizing that I'm not the problem, but I'm in control of my problems. So that's like the first large step that I had to take when I was taking care of my health.
Yeah, they don't tell you early on again about how this physical element is going to affect you psychologically.
Hmm.
And that's why I do advocate for when someone is diagnosed with this is a traumatic diagnosis. First off, the from just being a person knowing that you have diabetes, because before your own diagnosis, before my own diagnosis, when I heard the term diabetes, I prejudged it. So now I know that everyone else is prejudging it. Like Will has diabetes, Leah has diabetes, and they're like, ugh, like that's nasty, gross type. And that that affects us psychologically where we're like, "Oh, we can't talk about diabetes. Like, who talks about diabetes?" But
Yeah.
like other chronic health conditions, people talk about them. People work on steps to healing. They build communities, global awareness regarding, and that's truly something that needs to occur so that other little people, 16-year-olds that are newly diagnosed, that get to tap in to hear Leah tell her story, know that they can equally become their best. They can go to school for criminal justice. They can work towards their law degree. They can become great advocates for people with disabilities. Again, there's little girls and little boys out there that need to know this. So I thank you for sharing this.
Yeah. When I was in school, I think like towards I got older, like in school, I had a bit of a like issues because like I was very ambitious as a child. I was like, I knew what I wanted to do, I knew what my goals were. But as soon as I got my diagnosis, like, okay, is this gonna affect my plan? Is it gonna affect my trajectory? And yeah, I've had like my ups and downs, I've had my issues, but I never really wanted it to stop me from where I wanted to go. I know where I'm gonna go, and with God's will, I was gonna get there. Like in college, I'm 4 years down, I'm done, got my next degree rating. But even in college, like I knew that I needed, if I wanted to get where I was going to go, I needed to start advocating for myself. I started getting my accommodations. And it's like, even if people don't believe that you deserve those accommodations, you can still advocate for yourself and get them. Like, I remember one time I was taking this one class, and the professor would not answer any of my emails. And I was sick with bronchitis at the time. And so I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call contact the dean. And so some people might think, oh, you're being extra. But it's like, no. If you need the accommodations, you should go get them because no one's going to care for you like you care for you. You know what I mean? Everyone can say, oh, I want to help. I want to do this and that and the fourth. But if you don't take that first step, you're not going to get to where you need to be. And it's like college, I'm not going to lie to you, college was stressful. I'm a double major. It was a stressful 4 years. And I'm glad I got my degree and I'm finished. But I feel like if I had been more kind to myself and not put so much pressure on myself, I probably would have been an easier time. Because another thing, like with being like, chronically ill, you feel like you have to work 3 times as hard as the next person to get where you want to go. And that was like my mindset all throughout school. I was like, okay, I know I have these many diseases. I need to work 4 times as hard, to get where I want to go. And I didn't really take any breaks. I was like constantly going. And it's like I got where I need to go, but I did pay a price for it with my mental health. You know, I'm sitting now at 34 years old. I realized like if I could talk to my younger self, like, listen, you're gonna get where you need to go. Just take it easy. Take every day one step at a time because there will come a time you need a break, but you're too tired to ask for that break. You know what I mean? It's like we have goals, we have ambitions, and as people call it, sometimes we're like, okay, how are we going to get to where we want to go when everyone else seems like a mile ahead? You're comparing to the journeys, but it's like it's not about comparing to the journeys. It's about recognizing where you are, the person, and what you need to keep going further. What's fueling you? What's motivating you? What are you telling yourself? I remember my self-talk for a long time. I let like academic validation like really steer me in the wrong direction. And it's even now as an older person, I'm still trying to like, get rid of that grip because what academic validation like really cause you to like neglect your self-needs is crazy. Fun fact, when I was in college, I think my second year, I had a seizure because it was finals week. I had a seizure. My blood sugar dropped to 20. It was really, I wasn't really eating because I was like, finals week, I can't afford to have any high blood sugars. So I wasn't really eating. I was taking insulin to make sure I was fine, but I was like, I wasn't really eating. And so I dropped like really, really low. I had a seizure. And then on top of that, I ended up getting COVID. So I had a seizure and then I got COVID after. Now, I feel like that was like a really dark place for me because I was like, okay. I was like, at the time I was looking at things and they're like, oh, chronically ill people are like, they're dying because of COVID. And I was like, I'm like, oh no, am I next? And it's like, I think everyone knows that COVID really did a number on all of us, like especially chronically ill people, like with anxiety, like are we taking the medications, like how much we need to prepare for? And especially like the past medications like started going up. And I was just like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And at that time, instead of like over worrying myself about like, what I was going to do, I really just needed to take a step back and assess myself, like, how am I feeling? What do I need? But instead of doing that, I just kept worrying about the next step forward, overthinking. And I feel like that can be like a thief of joy as well, especially when you're in a situation where you're supposed to be like relaxing and taking care of yourself. Oh, it was a
And
nightmare. That was
yes, if you're a person living with any chronic health condition, living with diabetes, because as soon as you heard that, they were like, that's the number one rate of people that are dying from this
Yeah.
infection. And I understand why you did online school.
I had to take like withdrawal season because it's like I was so scared. Like, and me and my mom, we both got COVID at the same time. So like we went through it together. But like for a long time, I thought I was like, okay, these are my end days. It's not gonna end well. Like I was like very sad. I slept a lot during the COVID. When you're really sad about something, so you take that depression nap. That was me. Like a good portion of the day. It's like
You
just
were in hibernation
basically, yeah, hibernation.
for a 2 year slumber, probably. You like,
Yeah. As like all the things that like, my hobbies that I was interested in, I just started doing interest in them, you know? And this is before I even knew like I had like my autism and my ADHD. I just don't feel I felt numb. I felt like I didn't have anything to care about, you know? And the only thing that really brought me out of it, thank God, is like I started reading my Bible more often. I started like, meditating on my word. And that started to help me like get my mind back. I was still sad about the way things were. And then, I started praying more and that started helping me a lot. And then after I got my diagnosis that I was no longer like, positive COVID, I was like, I was still like, very careful. Like I was wearing masks everywhere. I was like, I'm not trying to get sick no more. Even to this day, when I hear someone says they have COVID, I'm like, back up.
look,
I'm
if
like,
I
no,
hear
no,
somebody
I'm not
clearing
going
their
back.
throat and I'm in a line or they walk by coffee, and I'm like,
I was like,
yeah.
I have a weak immune system. I can't afford to get sick. That was literally like how I thought majority in college. Like every time I was close to me, like, bring me. And I live in a Caribbean household. Like, so we had like a lot of cheese and like natural stuff we have. I'm like, give me all the cheese.
Right.
Give me all the cheese. Like before, I was like, it doesn't really work. But it's like now it's like better to be sick than to be sorry. You
Right.
know?
Because you were in the country of Florida.
Yeah.
You were in the country of Florida
We're not,
during
yeah.
COVID, so it's a whole nother
When
it
I tell you,
didn't it didn't exist there.
no, it did not. When I tell you people walk around without a care, I'm just like, do you not care for your life? Are you not concerned at all? I was like, I'm not putting my life like that. But it was
Yeah.
a genuinely scary time. Like it was just a very scary time to be alive. And when I started coming out of that, I was like, okay, there is, there's purpose to life. Things aren't always going to be bad. There'll be down days, but not everything is horrible, you know?
Right. That's when I told myself, I said, we'll take control of your life, your health, because you can't be at your best for nothing or no one else if you're not for yourself. And
Hmm.
I was told a bunch of people no, stop, don't, won't, can't. Because I was
Hmm.
like, yes, 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 okay, I'll try, I'll get there, I'll do. Nope, not anymore.
Yeah, I was similar where like sometimes like I have trouble saying no to people. And then it's like, okay, at what cost does this come at when I say yes to you? Like what am I sacrificing? Because every time you say yes or you say no, something is coming at a cost.
Right.
So it's just like saying yes to you is a no to myself. And it's like, can I afford that right now? Is that something that I should be doing? You know, how's this going to affect me later on? And like going back to like the overthinking, like sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, okay, I know I shouldn't suggest this, but if I don't, how are they going to feel about me? I'm a retired people pleaser. I'm trying to like, change from it. I'm trying to like let
I
go of those
I threw
ways.
that. I put that jersey up in the rafters, threw my shoes up on the telephone pole.
It's like,
Like, you, you grew up. Hold on. You grew up in Florida mainly, right?
yes, I came here when I was 13 years old.
Hell, so you spent a great deal up north. So that was
Yep.
a huge transition. But when you first got to Florida, you was like, "Oh, this weather."
I'm not gonna lie to you. When I first got here, I was like, ugh. I'm I'm not gonna lie, there's like a week where I'm like, I miss the cold. I miss the wet. My parents looked at me like I was crazy. But then I was like, okay, it's not that bad. But the thing about Florida, it's humid as heck, right? And it affects your diabetes. Like I'll be outside, I'll be fine before I leave the house. Also, I'm in hot weather and my blood sugar's still going up. I'm like, what did I do? I didn't even need anything. Like you just step out the house and all of a sudden you think 20 in public. I'm like, I didn't even do nothing. That's nothing. I'm like, how did we get here? You know? And that's the crazy thing. Like finding out the weather can affect your diabetes is crazy.
Yes. Yes.
Like, why do you have so much control of my blood sugar? Like, it's not fair. I didn't even, it's like, I can understand if I was eating something I was supposed to be eating, you know, like if I was being bad, but I didn't do nothing. I was trying to exercise that. How am I exercising and I'm so high? Make that make sense. You know, it
You
doesn't make
can't
any
you
sense.
can't make it make sense. Uh, I was just talking to someone earlier today. They were asking me about bolusing for pizza and how you do this and that. And I was letting them know, I said, you gotta realize first off that diabetes is not all about food. I
Mm-mm.
said it's not. I said food consumption to me is not even top three. Like I think I always tell them, I say I think about weather, the temperature.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think about adrenaline, exercise, anxiety, any kind of stress,
That's a good
adrenaline.
one. Stress will have you messed up. And I'm kind of stressor sometimes. I'm trying to like work on relaxing and I stress myself. But like, I realize like if I'm extremely stressed about something, forget insulin. I'm high for days. I'm not, it's only me that can figure this out. And I'm just like, okay, clearly I know what's targeting me, my body.
Hmm.
Let's take a break, step away from that. Realizing what that is in time and trying to like help yourself get away from what's stressing you will do you a huge favor. Because it's like, and it's funny, sometimes the thing that's stressing you is diabetes, right? You're stressing out about diabetes and it's affecting your diabetes. And it's
Diabetes.
just
You got
like
double
diabetes.
diabetes.
And so it's like I can't get away from this. I mean, it's a struggle. And I'd be like going to endocrinologist and they're like, why is your blood sugar so high? I'm stressing out about diabetes and it's causing me to counteract my diabetes. I don't like this, you know? And it's been like a long time trying to explain that like your emotions are they really do affect you in
The
multiple more ways.
emotions of diabetes.
It's not even just that. You know something funny? So I have like when my blood sugar is like really high, I have like really weird dreams, right? And sometimes it'll reflect when I wake up in the morning. Like I'll go to bed like 100, right? I'll wake up in the morning, keep training. Like I can eat, I've been sleeping, right? But all of a sudden, because I have some crazy dreams, now my blood sugar's high. And it's the same thing when I'm low. Like for a long period of time, I started to hallucinate when I was low. And it was getting to be a common problem. And I'm like, does anyone else have these problems? Like
Yes.
when they go low, like when I start to see things, you know? It's crazy.
Those lucid dreams, they occur even like the going high hypoglycemic episodes from when you're sleeping. Um, that nocturnal effect, like it does occur. You could be having a dream that you're Kim Possible saving the world, like for real, and you're like, but then you realize, like, oh my gosh, I know this is affecting my blood sugar. You wake up, check your blood sugar, and it's like 300. And like, why? Why was I trying to save the world?
And you know what's funny? I have insomnia, right? So it's like I rarely get a good night's rest. And so when I do, I end up paying the consequences for it. It's like, okay, so it's either I don't get enough sleep and my blood sugar hates me, and then I do get enough sleep, my blood sugar still hates me. It's like, which one do you want?
Right.
I can't have both. Pick one, please, diabetes. It's like, make it make sense, please.
You were talking about those low dreams. Those are the ones that used to get me real bad. I don't, it would seem like if I was to be it would seem like I'm dreaming for hours and
Yeah.
hours. At any time, like I had a very long dream, I knew that my blood sugar was dropping significantly. Like I was going to be in the 40s, if not 30s. And yeah, and it was like nothing I could do about it at that
Yeah.
time because there were some good dreams.
It's like, something this is good, but it's not. One time I was watching Once Upon a Time the show, right? And so I watched a specific episode, right? It's Peter Pan theme. And so I went to sleep afterwards and my blood sugar dropped really low. And so I started hallucinating that I could jump through portals, right? And so I'm running up and down the stairs thinking I can jump through portals. Meanwhile, the whole time I'm dreaming this is not real. I
Mhm.
go into my brother's room, I'm jumping up and down. And it wasn't until like someone woke me up, like, Leah, you're dreaming. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, I'd be like really confused afterwards as well. I'm like, what's going on? I feel like it takes its toll on your memory as well, because it's like in the moment you think this is real, right? And then you wake up confused. It's like, what happened? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like you ever have a dream like so like vivid and real that you say like, oh, this actually happened, and you're mad when you, when you wake up.
Right, and it didn't really. Look, it's almost like we need cameras in our
Yeah.
bedrooms, like a reality show. I was talking to, I can't recall, a while ago. I was talking to someone in a group about having a type 1 diabetes reality show. I said, like,
That'd be
We,
so funny.
yeah, like we're all on Zoom and just showing her day to day, and like it gets crazy. It's like Big Brother.
Yeah, that'd be so funny. Could you imagine? Sometimes, like when I'm like, from like, what's that show? What's a reality show? You know, Abbott Elementary, where like something crazy happens and they pan to the camera. That's what I feel like we should be doing. I just did all this exercise. I didn't even think my budget filter training. Just turns like, can you leave this? You know, it's like the hidden camera somewhere. Who's playing the pranks? You know what I
Right.
mean?
It'd be nice if like our blood sugar could be behind us the whole time. Like we don't even know what it is, but it's behind us, and everyone who's watching it now they get a like a true visual on how it affects us mentally and emotionally and physically. We're like, oh wow, she's at 99 and it's dropped down 10 points. It's going rapid. Like, yeah, here comes the crash.
My sister's always feel like, oh, when Leah gets like real chatty and she starts like going on a random reaction, that's when you know her blood sugar's low. Like
Yes.
when I start spitting out historical facts, one time I went on a whole rant about George Washington to my mom. I don't even remember what happened afterwards, but she's like, "Oh yeah, you're low." She's like, "You need to eat something." I'll just start saying random stuff, random facts. It's like, and that's another thing about like autism and ADHD. It's like you don't sometimes you remember the important things, but you'll remember random things that are in the back of your head and come up at the most important inconvenience time ever. I'm like, okay, this is not necessary. You know, I can't remember where I left my keys, but I can remember over 200 facts about something that's not relevant to the situation.
And that's the main reason why I got cameras put inside my house because I kept losing my keys. I'm like, I would go back on my phone like, when did I last see my keys?
I used to have the same problem when I was younger. So I'm like, I have a system. I'll put it back in the same place every time. That way I have like, I remember things. Cause I used to get like really sad. I have like mental breakdowns. Like, where did I put my stuff? I can't find it. And then I'm like, oh, I put it over here. I found it. I'm keep it in the spot. So I remember for later, you know. And as an adult, I'm better now at like remembering where I put things. My problem is mostly time,
Mhm.
which is ironic considering like in Caribbean culture, a lot of us like we usually arrive late. But I have the opposite problem. I'm usually like extra early because I have a fear of being late. So it's like growing up in a private household, it's like, okay, I'm not trying to be late to anywhere, you know. It's like I'm trying to be always early. And sometimes, like, if things that cause, I'm like, okay, I overestimated how early I need to be this thing. And like I'm only even
Mhm.
there. So it's like now it's awkward.
That's yeah. It's a lot of things just living with chronic health condition are awkward
Yeah.
because no one outside of our circle really understands it. We can try to give them all of the information, share the books, share the videos, and they still won't get it. And at the same time, we don't want them to physically get the disease
Yeah.
because we're like, you can handle this because literally I can't handle this. I don't
It's
want
crazy.
anyone to handle this.
It's like when you tell people that you have like the disease, and then this is what I always get the dogs. I'll tell them like I'll give them a list of like issues I have, and they're like, oh, you're too young to have this. Like you think I wanted this many mental health like complicated? Like, you think I wanted this at this age? It's like no, I didn't ask for this. What am I supposed to do with it? It's like I would get that all the time. I'm just like it's like okay. And it's like Leah, remain calm. Don't stress yourself out because this is like where it'll get you. But it's like what do you want me to do with that information? Like, yeah, I'm young, but it's like it's not like I had anything to do with it. It's like you think I went to the doctor. I was like, yeah, giving all these diseases, the most expensive one actually, by the way. So I
Right.
love spending money on things that I can't control. It's like that's what I would love. Please, yes. Like I don't understand why people say things like that.
Mhm. Yeah, I had a conversation with a young lady who was diagnosed when she was 15. And she was talking about how a family member continuously tells her, even now, 17 years into her diagnosis, you're too young for this. You're too young for like why are you taking that insulin? You're too and she's so over it. Like she's like, I can't even go over her house. I can't speak to her no
Mhm.
more. And I
Yeah,
understand that upon your diagnosis at 16 years young, not 16 years old, because you were still a child. You were still your parents' baby. And that's something people don't understand. They think, oh, well, they got this disease. They need to take care of it. But you're still a young, developing adolescent, teen,
yeah,
young lady, hormones, everything. So many things that are basically tied and tried against you.
Yeah.
Like, how how was that for you truly at 16?
Like, okay. So at 16, I'm in the age, I always knew I was different from most kids, but it's like when you find out what truly makes you different and that fact that you can never go back to like being quote unquote normal, it's like something you have to wrestle within yourself. Like, I've always been like sick and I always knew something was wrong. But it's like I knew as long as I had enough ambition, enough emotion, enough motivation, I would get to where I wanted to go. And then getting a diagnosis with diabetes, and like, okay, well, this changed things. I know how it would change. I was not prepared for how it would affect me emotionally, physically, so forth and so on. But I still felt I had a little bit of hope, but like I felt like that hope was being crushed every day, throughout the fight, early because I didn't have resources. I didn't know what to do. Like my parents, they did their best to help me, and I appreciate them for that because they had a lot of kids. And it's like, I'm the third oldest, right? So it's like, they did their best. They tried to help me. But it's like, I truly didn't have as much of a care as I should have. I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. And I paid the price for it. But I soon realized, like, okay, I need to get this in order, right? And so, like, being a really ambitious kid who has all these goals for me, and all these like things that they want to do, but then feeling like they're going to be held back because they have diabetes, it sucks. You get depressed, you get sad, and you feel like you can't go where you want to be. And then you look around at your peers and you're like, oh, well, so and so can do this and they can do that. Why can't I? You know what I mean? So it's like I said, comparison gives you joy. It really did rob me from a lot of joy when I was younger. But like getting older, I just realized like I still could do what I wanted. I just needed to be more careful, more cautious. And like I said again, I had parents, so they were very like protective of me. So I didn't really get to do a lot of like, normal things that most kids did, right? So I also felt like a lot of my experiences, like normal 16-year-olds would have, I got held back from. You know what I mean? Like I didn't get to go like hang out with my friends every day. I was like, I wanted to, but like they had to be careful of my environment so I wouldn't get sick because I was getting sick often. So I was just like, okay, I had to find at some point I was like, okay, enough is enough. I have to find something that makes me happy. And that's like when I started like turning to like poetry because I love writing, and that's like the one area I feel like really get my thoughts out and really express how I feel. I still love writing to this day. Um, fun fact, I'm actually working on a book right now. So it's like, which is kind of like a theme of diabetes in there. So my characters do. But like writing has always been, ever since like I was young, it's always been like something that really helped me connect to my emotions, even when I didn't know what I was feeling. So it's like when my one hobby, writing and reading, those really were the greatest avenues for me. And so I feel like once I found that hobby, something that I can put my time and energy to, that would distract me from like, not from like, well, okay, my sister sometimes wasn't really very good, so I needed like a distraction, something to fuel my mind, you know? What I mean, like, when, everything around you seems to be going horrible, but you don't want to
Mhm.
think about it, right? You just want to free your mind from
Those
that,
thoughts.
yeah. And that was like what writing and poetry and reading was for me. I was able to free my mind from those thoughts. And then eventually, when I was in high school, I started to get out of my shell more, and I did like debate club, I did acting, I did even STEM and robotics. So I started getting out of my shell more. I started getting more into more activities and more interesting things. And then I realized like, there's more to life than just the complications that we have. The more than just like, the label that we put on ourselves. You know, we have hobbies, we have interests, we have things that we love, things that we're passionate about, and we shouldn't let just like, the day-to-day complications of life stop us from engaging in those things. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. You being able to be creative
Yeah.
and explore the inner workings of your mind was an escape. I wrote down right here because I was thinking about titles. I said she was literally breaking Leah out of the bubble. Like,
Yeah.
because I mean, you were really, as you mentioned, like growing up with even before the ADHD and autism diagnosis, you were in a bubble. Like,
Yeah.
and you basically kept yourself there. And I don't know what sparked you to get out of that and pop that bubble and just explore your world and not worry about the world around you. But you were able to do that. And you were able to do that on your own accord, your own terms. And again, like today, I see you and you're shining. Like you mentioned again, like how some people may see you as being like shy, quiet, but you were like, that's not you.
No,
And
I'm very loud actually. I'm told many times that
look,
my voice carries. Like I'm the loudest one in this house. Like whenever my mom wants me to come to the play a guest songs, I'm like, yeah, I'll just yell because I have pipes. It's a good thing that I can't sing though, because like I'd be a very loud singer. So I think you know what it was when I was younger. I feel like I needed to find something that was gonna give me joy. I need to find something that I could put my mind to, you know,
mhm,
to as like I said, release my creativity because I had like a lot of pent up stuff inside. I had a lot of passion. I was a very passionate kid. I had a lot of thoughts. But it's like when you're a kid surrounded by a bunch of adults, not every adult wants to hear your every single thought. They don't want to hear all your intrusive thoughts. So when you surround yourself in a community, people when they give you a safe space to release that, which is what poetry was for me. I was able to like let some of that energy out and become more myself. Even now today, like I'm getting back into some of my hobbies that I like, because like as an adult, life happens. You find, all of
mhm.
your time gets taken up by other things. So I'm like, you know what? I need to find some things that can give me joy and give me relief. So like today, now I enjoy writing. I enjoy like, reading books. I will admit that when I was younger, I had a lot of hobbies. Like I was on the volleyball team. I was doing acting club, debate club, robotics. What else? I went to art school as well. I did dance. So I had like a lot of hobbies that I did that kept me busy, kept my mind focused. And at the same time, I was like also, really present about like what I wanted my future goals to be. I think the one thing that my childhood, you know, kind of I did too much was overthink about the future. Like I had a hard time like staying in the present, even now. Like today, like when I was like, okay, I had the podcast with Will, I think about what I was gonna say, what I was gonna do, because that's kind of overthinking I do. But it's like now that I'm here, I'm just letting things flow and be easy, be spontaneous. Whereas it's something I usually struggle with a lot, being spontaneous. But like I think any chronically ill person has like always had to deal with, like calculating the things that happen to make sure that nothing goes wrong. That feeling where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna be in the moment, but I have to calculate for the moment. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, the organizing of chaos we do. That's something that is forever. Like it doesn't end, even though we know with advancements in technology, faster acting insulin, those types of things are, I mean, they lessen the burden, but there's so much of a workload that comes with them. Like
Yeah,
learning them, we have to truly learn them first. And that may take 1 to 5 years for many. It's not
yeah,
simple. Like someone may think like, oh, Leah has a CGM. That technology is going to make her life so much better instantly. Instantly. Maybe physically, but mentally,
true.
it's going to put you through a roller coaster
I still
mentally.
have warnings from like the beeping from the CGM. I'm just like, oof. Every time I hear, I'm like, it's like,
Yep.
what's going low? It's like it's crazy. I remember in high school, like I used to like my mom was a teacher, she worked at my school, right? So I'd go into her class when I needed to take insulin. And so I remember one time like I was kind of passed out in her class because I was high. And my teacher at the time was like looking for me, they weren't knowing where I was. So my mom goes on the intercom. She's like, "Oh yeah, Leah's with me. She's high right now." They clarified that I was high because of my diabetes. So like for a whole week of school, I kept getting like made fun of like, "Oh Leah, I heard you was high."
And
But
everybody's
that,
cool with your mom saying you're high.
I was like, "Why would you say that?" And there's also like that just goes to show like diabetes. Sometimes it can be traumatic, but it also can be funny. There can be funny incidents that happen. If you choose to like find the comedy and the joy you can find in it. So I think sometimes, when you look back on what you've been through, there are moments where like, okay, I can laugh at that, because if you can't laugh at yourself, what can you laugh at? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I always try to find moments where in my chronic health issues, I'm like, okay, was that a little scary at the time?
Mm.
Yes. But are we laughing about it now? Also, yes. Like, when I first joined the group chat with Chronic Health podcast, I was just coming off of DKA. But mind you, this wasn't any regular DKA. This was DKA from Victoza, a GLP-1 drug, right? That was supposed to help me, but I ended up getting DKA from it. So I'm like, in the moment, it was scary, but now I'm just like, wow, imagine me trying to lower my A1C and getting it higher because of the same drug that's just take lower. It's community timing. It's kind of funny. You know what I mean? Like, the irony in there, it doesn't write itself. Because like if you can find moments where you can laugh later, you might be scared now, but you can always laugh later. I try to remind myself that.
Yes, because we know living with a chronic health condition is life altering. I mean, it's forever and it's forever changing. So
Yeah.
like we gotta find our wins. Yeah. How do you personally stay upbeat and motivated throughout all of this?
Stepping has really helped me. What I like to do is like I have to step out of like the workout playlist. So I've been using that. And like sometimes when I'm stepping, I get my blood sugars come down. I'm like, okay, that's good. I feel motivated to keep continuing. Like I said, after I launched 10,000, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep going. There's some days where I'm like, okay, I don't feel like stepping. But when I'm working out with my friends and and I'm listening to my music, that keeps me motivated and that releases that
Mhm.
dopamine. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so seeing the progress that helps. I'm trying to get my A1C down now, because it's a little high now, but I have a goal. I'm trying to get it to at least 8. It's currently at 11. But knowing that I can do it, I've done it before. I'm like, okay, I've done it before. I slacked a little bit, but I'm coming back. And also, my therapist is told me this, like giving myself grace on the days where I feel like I don't deserve it. That's helping me, like, get back to myself and not feeling like, okay, this is your fault, not being, because like, as diabetics, sometimes we can be our own harsh critic. We can blame ourselves for mistakes that aren't really our fault. It just happens. It just happens. Things like life happens like sometimes. So it's like giving myself grace, finding small wins. Like whenever I might get my blood sugar to be like at 100, I'm like, yes, I got a unicorn. So it's like when I get to 100 range, I'm like, that's good. Or even just waking up not as high as I was yesterday. Like sometimes, like today, I woke up 184. Not the best, but compared to yesterday when I was like 220, that's much better. So finding small wins on my blood sugar, find things I like to do, finding hobbies that make me happy. Those are how I like find the joy back. And like even though it's stressful and it's like diabetes and all the other medical complications.
Mhm. Um, there are many things that are what we consider like misunderstood about living with chronic health condition right here in this moment, living with type 1 diabetes. Did they affected you over your last 8 years living with diabetes? Like people and their misunderstanding of you and this disease?
You know, I've heard, okay. So I occasionally like I'll hear people make like diabetes jokes, and like at the time they'll not know that I'm diabetic. And then when I say I'm diabetic, I see the face fall. It's like, okay, so you would feel comfortable saying if I was not here, but if I'm here, now you want to apologize. You
Hmm.
know? And it's like, okay, I understand that people have misconceptions and I understand that people might think differently, but it's never too late to educate yourself. It's never too late to change and be a different person.
Hmm.
Just because you didn't understand then doesn't mean you can't understand now. Google's free, Also, like Google's free. There's no need to say anything, stupid or ignorant. You can easily do Google shit and get your information straight. And even now, like sometimes I have miscommunication with myself. It's like, oh, that self-talk where like, oh, I'm so stupid. I should have not done that. I'm like, I'm wrong for this. Changing that, and replacing it with positive talk is really hard. Some days, you forget and it's just straight negative talk, but then you have to remind yourself, okay, that's not who I am. That was a mistake. That was a moment, but that's not who I am forever. And trying to work that in, like with other conversations with the people. Like you hear a lot of ignorant things, right? But you have to realize that doesn't reflect who you are. Just because people think that about you doesn't mean that is who you are, right? Like I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't eat that. I'm gonna get diabetes." I'm just like, and then it stresses you out because it's like, why do that doesn't make sense? Because you can't get diabetes from like eating one cookie.
Right.
You
It's
you
like,
won't.
do you got a wizard with a wand? Bam, you got
And it's like
diabetes.
it's like they say it like they want to get it. It's like, oh, I'll get diabetes. It's like it's not some enticing disease that you can just get. Okay,
Right.
please stop.
And that's
You
what many
know.
think. That's why many think that they can tell you something and you
Mhm.
follow that and you can get rid of your diabetes. You're not getting rid of this diabetes, like
No,
not at all.
funny. It's like you'll get the WhatsApp messages from people like, "Oh, I'm selling this diabetes cure. You should try it. It'll help you out." I'm like, "Please, sir, let's
Mm-mm.
stop with the scams. We don't need it anymore. This is like stop trying to sell false hopes. It's not working. You know what I mean? It's like no. There are natural herbs that can help you with like nice
Right.
that, but
Insulin
there's no
resistance and
yeah. There's no herb you can take that's gonna raise diabetes. However, it doesn't work like that. Everyone's immune system is different, so like there's no one all cure for everyone to fix it. You know what I mean? I wish people knew that more. They're like, oh, this supplement will help you get rid of your diabetes. It's not. It might help improve it, but it won't get rid of it. You know?
Right. That's why that I've been type 1 for 22 years and I have yet to see an ad that says you can't get rid of diabetes. What's so hard about that ad placement?
Yeah,
Because it would help. We
it
know
would help.
the media and how I was a media literacy instructor for over a decade up until the last 2 years. I switched career paths. But that was something that was one of the first lessons learned in media literacy was how impactful and influential it is on people's lives. Like more
Yeah,
than 80% of adolescents' lives, or like that's the first thing that helps them in navigating things is media. Like even more
yeah.
so than parents and educators. It's very influential. Like what's so hard about placing it in even a preschool program. Things you learn early on,
And you know what's even
instill
funnier?
them.
It's like the media will be like, we're 5 years from now, we're being closer to finding a cure for diabetes. And it's like every year I see the goalposts change. It's like it goes from 5 years to 10 years, 15. I'm like, how are we really to finding the cure? You'll find like articles like, oh, we tested this in mice and we did this, that, and the third. I'm like, okay, maybe we should actually work on trying some humans, try and like actually put it. I see like a lot of people like trying to attempt to like do research and stuff like that. But then I'm like, why is there not enough funding for it? Why? You know, there's always like things like the government likes to focus on. But it's like sometimes I
Mhm.
feel like are we focusing on the real issues here? You know what I mean? People are still struggling with health care, trying to get their medications. Insulin is still extremely expensive. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like we're focusing on the wrong problem. And it's like that takes away from the help that people actually need, like the resources people actually need. So like for some media literacy, why aren't we talking about these issues that need to be tackled? You know what I mean? Why aren't we talking about like how we can get tested? I've seen like maybe one or two ads like, oh, maybe you should get tested for like diabetes to see if you have it. I've seen like maybe one or two of those. But
Mhm.
those ads could actually help people like figure out, especially if they have like a family history of diabetes, that could be
Right.
actually helpful. Right. So like why is it not showing up more in the media? Why are we not talking about this more?
And for me, it's because people, when they hear the term diabetes, they still think, ugh, nasty, like cooties, like keep it away from me. Instead
It's
of
like it's not.
embracing it like you do embrace any other health condition, any other chronic health condition. Like the only way we can best it is by learning it, by everyone learning it. Like it's not that hard to learn and be told like what diabetes is. Like we
Yeah,
know.
it's like, listen, there's so many resources now today, like so many Instagram pages that like tell you everything. Even if you don't want to use Google, Instagram. Like when I first started out, that's like
Mhm.
how I learned so much about diabetes and like what it means to be a diabetic. Even that, there's so many Instagram accounts today that will help you and like show you like what you need to know and put it in a format where you can understand it, right? So there's like really no reason why people should be ignorant about this. Like it's not some ancient disease that's not been discovered before. It's been around for some time now. So it's like when I hear people being ignorant and like making all this stigma and stuff like that and not actually caring about the people seeing the disease, not the person, it's like, okay, it kind of makes me a little mad, and a little sad to feel that because it's like we are more than just the diseases we have, right? We're beyond that. We are actual people. And it's like when they just put a label on it, it's like, okay, you're not really trying to get to know who I am or the struggles that I deal with.
Yeah. People, like I say, they half-ass everything instead of like fully learning it. Like take little
Yeah.
bits and pits, like little bits and pieces, and I'm like, okay, I know something. Instead of, you know how adults are today, like
Hmm.
they hate reading.
They
They'll
do.
watch every little 10-second video and think that that's going to change the world. They learn everything from that little 10-second content, but they will not read a manual to anything. Like,
I'm I'm gonna say guilty here because like my generation, it's like we have the attention span of a goldfish. It's not good. So it's like I'm trying to get you like pay attention, please. And it's like a lot of them they won't even focus on the skills. Like the screen TikToks where they have like a video of like Minecraft and like someone speaking something like that. Like that's the only way they get their information now. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, well, this is getting sad. Like people, please pay attention. We have like bigger issues, and it's like when you don't pay attention, that's how you become susceptible to like other issues, like manipulation stuff like that. And that's when the stigma. That's where the issue comes because like people aren't paying attention and they're just listening to anything. They're not fact checking things. They're not actually curious to find out what's going on, and they're just getting their information from anywhere. And that's like where actual harm comes from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like we got to put a voiceover to some animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that will help out. I don't know. Um, has living with diabetes over the last year affected you in any relationships, friendships, significant others, family, like that type of relationship type?
It's so funny you ask that. Like, okay, so I am notoriously single for a long time. I've like been motivated to school, right? I've been like
Mhm.
when everyone asks me, like, yeah, I'm just married to school. That's what I'm
Right.
married to. And
Mhm.
so it's like even now, my siblings like, Leah, aren't you lonely? I'm like, I'm good. It's like you don't know what you're gonna miss. But I feel like worst comes for friends. I have good friends. I'm blessed to say that I have good friends who understand me and how I am. It hasn't always been easy. Sometimes it's been hard to like explain what I'm going through. But having good friends who understand me, actually one of my friends has autism and ADHD as well. And we kind of found out that we both were diagnosed around the same time. So it's like having friends who understand what you're going through, that's been very helpful. You know, my siblings, they're been very helpful for me as well. They understand they're very aware of like what is going on. Two of my sisters actually are interested in like in the medical field. So it's like I feel like I've been like their practice, what I mean? For, like when they need to learn about diabetes, I'm like, listen, whenever you go to nursing school, you already know about diabetes. This just has it. I've already explained everything to you, so you can, you kind of prepped and everything for it.
Look, it's about 12 of them, right? You said
I
some
have
between all of them,
a
someone's
lot
gonna
of
find the
sisters.
cure.
Hopefully, I'm like, listen, I was joking with my cousin, like, listen, if you find someone who doesn't want their pancreas anymore, let me know. Mine's currently dead. I could use.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I always joke with them about that.
We can set up shop in the basement.
It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. One time, because I was curious, I went on Google to find out, like, how do you make insulin? And it's like, okay, well, this isn't very helpful. They're like talking about the insurance you need. I'm like, okay, but it's like the price I'm making compared to how much it's sold for today is like really crazy. Because it's like it costs so little to make, and yet we're paying so much for it. It doesn't make any
Mhm.
sense. You know what I mean? So it's like just thinking about those things. It's like it's crazy like how the trajectory of greed can really change what people get access to and what their needs, are advocated for.
Right. I think last year I was in a local bagel shop with my youngest son. He's 11 now, so he was 10 at the time. And he goes, Dad, he said, there's something that takes less than $3 to make, but it's being charged in the uh tens of $100s to some people, upwards of $1,000 to $2,000 for them to have. I said, how do you know that? And he goes, it's insulin. I said, how do you know that? And he goes, I just know. He's like, it's crazy how much it costs. He's
Really.
like, y'all need this to live. And I said, I know.
And
Like,
it's like coming from like a political aspect, like because like from my major, I studied things like the government, and it's like seeing people like argue over all these useless things, and it's like, hey, maybe lowering the all like, oh yeah, we're gonna lower the price of insulin, and we're just diabetic. So
mm,
like, well, you said that, and yet here it is, still high as heck. So it's like, hey, maybe help us out here. Maybe let's not lie. Maybe let's be truthful. You know, it's like going on into the future, like for my career, like as a lawyer, I feel like advocating and like, tackling against like big pharma and like bringing up some of the issues, like why they keep doing things they're doing is really important for me. Because like aside from like the other areas of law that I'm interested, I'm really interested in like taking after these companies that are taking advantage of people in their lives, talking to the government and working about these things. These are the things like I'm really passionate about. And like hopefully one day I get the opportunity to like help make change. And it's like now I know I don't really have exactly the resources to do much, but hopefully like when I get older, I know I remember always things that all the help that I've received and how I can pay it tenfold to back to people. You know what I mean?
Now, I'm going to ask you something before I move on to. I do have a last question as we wind down, but I'm going to ask you something I've never asked anyone. So I have some choices here. I've been thinking about title for your episode. So I'm going to tell you some of the things I wrote down here. One was how to fix it. You said that early on. You were like talking about like all the different elements, and you're like, how do you fix it? Um, it was like how then you said it can be a bad day. And I was like, it can be a bad day. It's almost always a bad day. And then you're like, every day can be a bad day with diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, people don't know that. So I have how to fix it. Every day can be a bad day. I have the mask.
Ooh, I like that one.
Um, I have breaking Leah out of the bubble.
That one, I like that one. That one's like, I feel like I can picture that one. That's very like American girl.
hmm I have, and the last one I have is law and order.
I like that one. Law and Order. Okay. These are my two choices. Law and Order and Breaking Me Out of the Bubble. I'm gonna go Breaking Me Out of the Bubble. I feel like I like that one. It's like it paints a nice picture. I like that.
Right. And then people will be like, oh, Leah's on.
That's funny. I told my mom this. She's like, make sure you talk really slow because sometimes you talk too fast, people can't understand you. So hopefully I was talking slow enough because I know I have a problem when I get excited to talk really fast. So
You weren't
hopefully you
talk
understood what I was saying.
you weren't talking fast at all. I've
Thank you.
I've it just shook my head. But as we wind down, first thing I'm gonna ask is what's some good advice you've received or you'd like to share with someone who's been newly diagnosed or have been diagnosed for a while and just need to like start over?
Um, well, some advice I'd like to share is take every day step by step. Um, there's a favorite Bible verse of mine, Matthew 5:24-25, where it says, right, each day has enough troubles of its own, so let tomorrow worry about itself. And so I feel like that's my main mantra, like take every day step by step and find things that you enjoy to focus on. You
Mhm.
know, bring joy back into your routine and try to not let the mundane take over the things that you enjoy, because that will really suck the joy out of everything for you. So take every day step by step and find things that you enjoy to bring back into your routine. That's the advice I would share to I'm diabetic.
Like, take it step by step. Take it step by step because you know it's a journey,
Yeah.
truly. Um, have you ever imagined your life without diabetes, considering you were 16 when diagnosed?
I'm gonna be so honest with you, I think about it all the time.
All the
Like,
time.
I think not what I think about it like how I think anyone who's been like chronically ill and has been in their life like, pain and like sickness has always thought about like, okay, what would it be like if I was like, free of this, if I had no if I was normal, you know? But
You
I
have thought
realized,
about it.
yeah, I realized like, if I was normal, I wouldn't be the lead who I am right now.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I don't care. Sometimes I mean, I always like myself, but I do like myself in general. You know, I like my personality. I like my mindset. I like who I am, you know. And I realized that all these, trials and tribulations have gotten me to this point where I am right now. And so it's like, I feel like it just makes my testimony and my story even better. You know, everything happens for a reason, you know, and whether it's let's say for a season or even longer than that, it's up to you to try and make the most of it and just like, see it through, understand that what you're going through and give yourself grace, but honestly understand that you are still who you are, even with all these complications that come with it.
Right. I asked you that because the last question I ask everyone on this journey is someday, one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but someday, considering the advances in science, technology, they're not going to be able to stop it once it's here.
Yeah.
Once it's here, because you know how we are people in this world. We yell. We
Yeah.
speak it into an existence. We will. So someday, one day, I do believe a true functional cure will be here. where I can contact everyone in the group and let them know, like, check your CGM, do a finger prick. Diabetes hasn't been working all day. It hasn't been working. And you know how diabetes don't take no days off. It works
Mhm.
366 days, 25/8. Like that's how diabetes works. And everybody's like, yeah, mine isn't working either. Like my diabetes stopped. On that day, you find out that you and the entirety of the community, everyone living with diabetes, have been cured from living with this disease. These more than 180 extra decisions we make every single day. On that day, you find out, Leah, you've been fully cured. What do you do?
Well, first of all, I'm a dance break. I'm dancing. That's I'm playing for music and I'm dancing with my family. I like diabetes is gone. Next step, hopefully by then, like I imagine myself to be in the point of my career where I can actually help people. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I've got to share the news. I've got to start advocating for people, making sure, they don't start trying to be prices on this cure, to make it overly expensive for everyone. I feel like at that point, I'm like, after I start my celebration, I'm like, okay, what can I do to make sure that everyone has access to this? And, history doesn't repeat itself like what happened with insulin. And, everyone is able to get cured. Because, I feel like once we get a cure, us as diabetics, we should have like a whole party to celebrate. You know what I mean? Just like have a party, bring up our tag and say like, oh, 8 years diabetes strong. You know what I mean? So we all meet and talk and we'll all be like free together. You know what I mean? So I feel like that would be what I would do. As soon as I find a cure, and I'm in my position to help people, and advocate for people, like with my career, I'm like, okay, we all have to have access. Cause like if one of us wins, we all win. You know what I mean? And if we're not winning together, we're not winning at all. Right. So if we get this cure together and we're all able to stand up and help each other, then we can start helping, the next set of people who are looking for a cure for their disease, because, once we find a cure for one disease, that starts the ball rolling,
Mhm.
right? Because a lot of diseases, they share the same comorbidities and they share the same symptoms. So when
Right.
science starts advancing, we can work on funding that and getting this rolling and like really helping bring together the chronically ill community.
I love your answer to that because we know living with type 1 diabetes isn't just living with type 1 diabetes.
Mm-mm.
There's so much more that goes into that. And if we can live free without it, we can help out other communities,
Yeah,
other chronic health conditions, use up those 180 more choices to make more positive gains for the world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do a question, Will.
Yes.
That's okay. Question. Okay. So if you were a mythological creature, right? And diabetes is a mythological creature, which mythological creature do you think diabetes would be?
So first I got to create a mythological creature.
Yeah. Like if you think, okay, like if you had an option like between vampires, werewolves, the typical thing, like in my mind, I'm seeing us as vampires, that I feel like that would be the obvious choice.
Mhm.
But what do you think? What would you pick?
Vampires would be an obvious choice,
Yeah.
but even before the vampire, it would have to be some kind of bat
Yeah.
because, but I don't know because the the vampire, the bat would be infecting something. That's what I always think of. Like, I don't,
I feel like vampire was the obvious choice because, like, if I think about
right.
it, we're awake at night. A lot of us are awake at night.
Hmm.
We have issues with blood. A lot of us, have had it for a long time. So it feels like we've been having it for years. So I feel like that would be like the obvious choice. But I was curious, like, what you would think.
But
I
also
said,
the emotions of a werewolf.
yeah,
Like at any given moment, tear those clothes off, go crazy.
thought I that make that's funny. That makes sense too.
The heat, everything, the aggression, gotta stay calm and cool. Oh man, it'd probably be a mixture of the two somehow,
Hybrid.
some kind of hybrid. Yes, it would have
Yeah.
to be. Yeah,
I
it wouldn't be a
that.
unicorn.
No, no.
Yeah, I don't even know where they got that one from.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. But on that note, my sister Leah content, aka Breaking Leah out of the bubble. Thank you for joining me on this journey that is the Chronically Will podcast, where we have real conversation with community that need to be heard because Leah, you are someone that truly needs to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time today, honestly. I was nervous at first. I was like, what am I gonna say? But like, I feel like talking to you is like really comfortable, you know?
That's
Like
how
you
it's
have people,
supposed to be.
I feel like real community, real talking. So thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation and I look forward to, watching this episode. Hopefully everything sounds good. I know we had a lot of complications, but we made it. So thank you for your perseverance and for having me
But
today.
it's better to have technological complications than health complications.
That's true.
Right. All right. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of today.
Too. Bye.
Yep. Get those steps in.
I will.